AfterBuzz TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Dallas After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Dallas After Show.
What's up, cowgirls and cowboys? I said girls first this week. Thought I'd give the ladies a little shout out. I'm your host, AJ Gibson, here at AfterBuzz Studio. Bing is for doing, and we're doing it big tonight. This is Dallas Season 2, Episode 11, Let Me In. I'm joined this evening by the lovely, the one, the only, Kellie Olisky. How are you, Kellie?
I'm fabulous. I'm so sad I missed last week. Such great episodes.
Every episode this season is great. They keep getting better and better and better.
I know.
And I'm so excited to talk about tonight's episode because it was a little bit different than, there's not as much huge over-the-top drama,
right?
But there was a lot of drama. And I thought that the light and shade of this episode was beautiful. I think that this episode was very subtle but so powerful. I'm really excited to talk about it. I love it. I just actually watched it a couple of hours ago.
Oh, I watched it.
I was busy on Monday and couldn't watch it. So.
Yeah, I watched it last night, and I watched the last two back to back, and I had somebody watching with me that hasn't yet gotten into the series, and by the end of watching the first episode, she's on Wikipedia, like looking up, so enthralled in the show, wants to know everything
so
and
good.
Start over, which it just is a tribute to the show.
I think a lot of people just don't even think, like, just even tuning into TNT. Like, they don't even know how well they do drama. They don't even know how great some of their programming is.
I know, it really is, and I thought that was pretty impressive that she watched like halfway through one episode with me. She's like, wait, okay, pause. What's going on? I need to know. I love it.
Yeah, and also if you've heard of Dallas in the past, you think of this like nighttime soap opera, and that's not what it is anymore. It really isn't. It's a drama.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's hardcore, and the writing is phenomenal. The acting is better and better every single episode, and tonight is no exception. The beginning of this episode was so touching because at the end of last week was when Pamela lost the babies. And I was kind of wondering, like, did she really lose them? I was kind of hoping that maybe something would happen miraculously and there'd be a heartbeat, but there wasn't. And so this episode picks up where that left off. First off, that montage at the end of last week was just so beautiful, with her screaming and reaching and
oh my gosh, it was so like I've got chills right now thinking about it.
The first flat line and then the second one.
So horrible and sad.
And they replayed at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah, they did.
Of course.
It was so heart-wrenching.
It was, but it was so beautifully done.
Yeah.
And so tactful, I thought. That's a tough one.
Absolutely.
Like, I can't imagine.
And it really took a toll, it seemed, on John Ross. He was, he had a lot of emotion with that.
And I can't wait to talk about that because the characters, they're changing right now. And I was so, especially after season 1, I thought they were just trying to create a new JR and Bobby with John Ross and Christopher. And I thought that was a little bit too transparent. And this season, there's been some shifting on both parts, and I really like it. I like right now, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but I like right now how it's not necessarily the Ewings versus the Ewings.
Right.
I prefer a united Ewing family, personally.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, which is why it's really cool. I think they're bringing it, obviously the Barnes family back, but then also the Rylands. I think this is all really interesting. But let's talk about the opening of this episode. An interesting dichotomy. Very silent. There's no dialogue at the beginning. Just the song. Actually, "Keep on Running" was the song by Cat Power. I actually Shazammed it because I thought it was so beautiful.
Oh, it was a great song.
And Christopher is packing up the nursery at South Fork, and just a mess.
Yeah.
Falling apart. At one point, he picks up with the cradle, I think, the bassinet, and just throws it down and shatters it and just keeps throwing it. And he's just, that's how he's dealing.
Crying.
And then Pamela's at her condo, and she's not packing up, she's not throwing things and destroying things. She's putting the nursery together.
Which at first, when I saw her with the tool, I thought she was taking it apart. and then it cuts to a full-fledged nursery.
Yeah.
And I mean, that just broke my heart because it's just not wanting to let go and just really, really sad. And she's just kind of suffering in silence, literally, just kind of out of it.
I think that's what they really hit the nail on the head with the storyline. I feel like that is a fair representation of how a lot of men would probably deal with this and how women would deal very differently. Because women obviously have a very different connection to a pregnancy. After the birth, I think it's a different story, but the actual pregnancy itself has got to be the most incredible experience of a woman's life. And a man doesn't really get to feel that in the same way.
Right.
So, I mean, that's part of you, and literally part of you.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see the way that Pamela is coping, or not coping, actually, with the loss.
Especially because she's such a strong character and she's pretty badass just on a day-to-day basis. And just to see her kind of go in this haze is really what she's in. She's still in shock. She doesn't... And I think that a lot of women handle situations kind of in a similar sense where you just kind of fade out for a second because it's just too much to handle.
Especially a strong woman like her.
Yeah.
She probably hasn't been in these sorts of situations very often in her life. She probably has always had the answers. She's been able to push through things. This is a little more personal.
And this is there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing. There's no fixing it. It's done. And that is the toughest thing to deal with.
Yeah. And for her, she just retreats. For Christopher, he goes right back to work.
And he's lashing out at everyone. He's angry at the world.
He's feeling the burden of this. He doesn't know yet the real reason, but people are blaming him. They're pointing fingers. And at the beginning of this episode, Pamela is still blaming him, as far as he knows.
Right.
And he's thinking, I just killed my children.
Yep.
That's what's going through his mind. And she's just thinking, the father of my children just killed my children. I can't even imagine what that must be like. So they're obviously both going down very different paths right now. What's interesting to me is John Ross, and how John Ross is very integral to this whole story right now. And we had some comments, I know, on I think Twitter and some people on YouTube. People were saying we were very light on John Ross last week. And I can understand that. There's so many great characters on the show to talk about, though, that we're always going to be light on somebody.
Yeah.
So I think tonight we want to spend a little bit more time on John Ross. I really love his character right now, and the way he's stepping up and the way he reaches out. He's back at South Fork, first of all, because he's a half owner, thanks to Miss Ellie. And it looks like he and Bobby are sort of making amends. Bobby reaches out to him and says,
welcome home.
Yeah, welcome home. My mama did this for a reason. Welcome home. Christopher just not doing very well. But John Ross heads out. He calls and checks on Pamela. Does he call her first or go to her?
He calls her when because that's how we find out he's talking about being back at South Fork, and he's kind of making light conversation and trying to joke with her, and she's trying to put up a good front, like she's fine, and tells him that her mother's still there with her and she's doing all right, and kind of makes her voice sound pretty normal,
which we can all do on a phone call.
Yeah, and we see her and she's obviously not okay,
not doing well. Then comes the meeting, the T.E.H.A meeting. All right, so let's backtrack just briefly. Last week, at the end of the episode, Sue Ellen had reached out to one of her friends, who's actually an old friend who's on the T.E.H.A panel or the board of directors.
Yeah.
And his name is Mr. Richards.
The $1 Million Man.
The $1 Million Man. He let them know last week that there was an audio recording that heard two explosions, a smaller one and then the larger one, which would indicate that it was sabotage, that there was a bomb that set off the larger methane explosion. So the Ewings are thinking, this isn't Bobby's fault, and we're going to fight this, and it's going to come out. This report's going to come out finally from T.E.H.A, in a couple of weeks.
Christopher's fault, yeah.
Yeah, that shows somebody else they were at fault. Well, that's not what T.E.H.A says. In this board meeting, they meet with the Ewings, and they say basically, they're like, no, you were at fault. That it was the buildup of the methane, it was overpressurized, and that's what caused this. And not only is it your guys' fault, we're suing you for $1 billion.
Yeah, they have to pay a $1 billion
with a B.
fine. Yes. Yeah. Okay, now my question is this. It's a very high-tech rig. Everything that they're doing is new technology. Wouldn't they have some kind of backup system with record of what the pressure was at the time of the explosion? Kind of all of that stuff. And even if they didn't have all of that technical stuff, what about security cameras?
Exactly.
Everywhere?
Everywhere.
I mean, why are there no... There's no way for them, as far as we can tell right now, to kind of defend themselves. There's no record of any. I can't imagine there's not some kind of computer something.
There will be
backup.
There will
that has this stuff recorded.
I think they thought that the Ewings thought, well, Sue Ellen reached out to Mr. Richards. Mr. Richards, he's got the inside track on all of this. He knows what's going on. They felt comfortable, I think. They're going to take care of this. They're going to clear our name, and we're going to move forward. I don't think they thought they were going to get backstabbed like this.
Right.
Because they're keeping their eyes on Cliff Barnes and Harris Ryland, not having any clue these two things are attached right now.
Right, and they start, and John Ross starts kind of piecing this all together. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And at first, he's blaming Christopher as well. Then he starts thinking about it, and as he's talking out loud, a kind of light bulb goes off that it was JR's master plan. Like, he called it.
There are a lot of light bulbs tonight, I noticed. A lot of, like, just it's a little twinkle. And
those little aha moments.
Like, ooh. It happened with Sue Ellen. It happened with John Ross. It happened with Bobby. It even happened with Pamela, I think, a little bit at the end. It's interesting to see, like, they're slowly started to put the pieces together. And it's just a matter of time before they solve this puzzle and realize that, it is as bad as they think it is.
Right.
Actually, it's worse. Not only, is Cliff Barnes and Harris Ryland involved, big officials in Texas are involved.
Now, now it's the governor.
The governor. And that's interesting later on when we find out why Sue Ellen's campaign went the way it did so quickly.
Yes.
How all that ties together. Pretty cool stuff, actually. The writing is genius.
Yeah. Oh, and I love, what was that, Steven Weber? That's the governor? Love
he
that
was from
casting.
Wings?
Huh?
He was on Wings, right? Yeah, I used to watch him on Wings years ago. He's a good actor. He's a good guy. So, John Ross this time actually goes to Pamela. His instinct is telling him she's probably not that great. He talked to her on the phone.
Christopher asked him to.
Well, yeah.
To go tell her their theory.
Their theory, because Christopher doesn't want to go, because Christopher knows that if he goes to Pamela, he thinks if he goes to Pamela, she's just going to blame him. She might not even let him in her home.
And to be honest, the way that John Ross handled the whole situation with Christopher and his anger and everything in kind of that comical way, I thought was, kind of funny and appropriate, because Christopher's so angry. And when somebody's that angry, you can't really have a conversation with them. They're not hearing you. Yeah. So the way that he kind of handled, what do you want me to do? Go over and say, hey, sorry that your baby's dead. I think your father did it, kind of a thing. And he's like, what am I supposed to say to her? Yeah.
And I think that John Ross is handling everything beautifully right now.
He's really stepping it up.
Completely. And also this episode, I will say that I like Christopher a lot more. He's not. He didn't come across as bratty this episode. He came across as heartbroken.
Yeah, he was really having a difficult time.
Yes, and I enjoyed that, because I thought that as an actor, I really haven't seen Jesse Metcalfe act at that caliber before. And to see it, it's cool to see. I'm like, oh, he can do it. Now I know he can do it. So I expect this of him every episode. Because in all fairness, he hasn't had a whole lot of these scenes where he's had the opportunity to really go there yet. And right now, he and Elena especially are getting the opportunity to just...
Yeah, I mean, when he tells her, when he has that little kind of outburst with her.
And she's finally getting a little opportunity to really have a storyline now.
Yeah, and that was so cruel what he said. I mean, could have been a little bit true.
Well, because she's been so supportive of him, and for him to lash out and be like, you didn't want these babies anyways, you're happy.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I love it. She didn't even argue back. She just slapped him across the face.
She knew. She's like, look, I'm going to put you in your place and let you think about this for a while, because you're being an ass right now. And we're going to come back to this conversation later.
Yep.
And I liked that about her. I thought it was good, because we've all said the last few episodes, those two characters have been a little bit, not sure how we feel about them. We're not really pulling for them anymore.
Yeah.
They're kind of being a little bratty. I thought this was a good episode for both of them, which is cool. So John Ross goes to Pamela. I wrote, she's sitting out on the balcony. He walks in and he sees pill bottles open on like an end table, and he sees her sitting out on the balcony, and she's just staring off into space. She looks like a zombie. Like, she looked like she was literally...
Well, and he's wearing a coat, so it must be pretty cold in Texas for her to be sitting outside in shorts and a T-shirt.
This is what I love about you, how you pick up on all these little details. You're like me, because I do notice details, but you pick up even more.
Yeah, because she's sitting out there and kind of doing, kind of the, kind of
rocking back and forth like a crazy person.
And he comes out, and, he takes off his coat and kind of wraps her. So it's obviously got to be, cold out there, and brings her inside. And she's just in this zombie mode, answering questions just in a kind of a monotone voice. And it's just, really sad.
Well, because he asked her, because she had told him on the phone that her mom was there taking care of her. Well, she sent Afton home a week ago.
Yeah.
And Cliff sent flowers What do you think about that? Like, not only is he the reason that her children are dead right now, and her brother, quote-unquote brother, is dead, he only sent flowers?
I cannot wait until she finds out, because I think that it's just really going to flip that evil switch in her that we know she already kind of has, that we've seen a little bit of. But I think it's really going to flip, and it's going to backfire on him, and I am excited to see that happen.
Well,
because she's going to come into kind of like that mama lion that's just going to go.
Well, I think it's genius because in the original, it drove him nuts that Pam was a Ewing. It just drove him crazy. And so now, all this time with Pamela, he's tried so hard to create this woman who could go into this family and take down the Ewings and all these things, and it's all going to backfire on him again.
Absolutely.
Because he's turned into exactly what he hated the most, what he thought JR was. JR was never that bad.
No.
JR would never kill his own family's babies.
Well, he wouldn't have blown up anything with his family on it, no matter how much they were fighting. I can't imagine.
It's interesting, though, because I was reading some stuff online, and some of our fans were saying how Cliff was never this evil, even at the end of the series originally. And, like, why is he so evil now? I'm kind of curious about that.
I don't know. I think maybe it's because he didn't. It could be something that he really didn't kind of get his last dig in with JR. JR just kind of,
Right.
Unless he had something to do with his death.
Yes.
Which we don't know yet. I mean, and he could have.
He has to have.
It's just, but why would he be this evil, though, if he did? That's the only thing that makes me think maybe he didn't.
Yeah.
Is because wouldn't he be happy with that?
Yeah, you wouldn't have to kill your daughter's babies.
Exactly. If you didn't, if you got kind of the revenge you were looking for, why would you go to that extreme?
Yeah, and if
I mean, you can bankrupt the company, but you don't have to kill your daughter. You don't have to put your daughter's life in danger in the process.
She could have died.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easily. It's just all really weird, which makes me think that maybe he doesn't have anything to do with JR, with actually killing JR. Maybe that was a Harris Ryland thing, or maybe that was somebody else altogether.
It could have been, and maybe that's why he's so angry he didn't get that, so he's gonna do this now to get back at this family his way or something.
Some people are saying Judith, but that one doesn't really make sense to me. I don't understand why Judith would kill JR. I get why she has hatred towards Anne and towards the family, maybe towards Bobby even, but I don't understand why she would have hatred towards JR, because we heard heels. So we're going to assume that it was heels, like it was a woman that killed. However, it could have been cowboy boots.
Could have been.
In all fairness,
true.
I mean, you never know.
That's true. It could have been.
So,
absolutely.
I can't wait. I can't wait. And I want to say it again. Victoria Principal is coming back, but I'm going to talk about that. I actually have a little bit of Victoria Principal news that's going to come up in our news and gossip later. I got a little inside scoop.
Nice.
That's all I'm going to say for now. So, she got flowers from her daddy, which is fantastic. John Ross, I loved how, again, I wrote down the word subtle. The light and shade of this episode was so gorgeous. He's there for two reasons. I don't know which one is first and foremost. It's almost like there's reason 1A and reason 1B. He's there to get information for the Ewings, for his family, off of her computer. He wants to find Cliff's schedule prior to and right after the explosion.
Right.
He's also there because he really cares about Pamela. And when he goes and makes her tea, I thought that was the sweetest thing in the world. Even though he won't stop by her computer and swipe some stuff off her hard drive while he did it in classic Ewing form, just like his daddy would have. But he genuinely cared for Pamela, and he was taking care of her. Yeah. And I thought that was sweet.
And he told her, I'm going to be here until you're okay.
And I love that, as rich as both of these families are, as much money and power and everything else that both of them have, he made her tea. Like, that's something we can all relate to. It's a very simple, he didn't call a servant or someone to go do it or to order takeout or whatever he could have done. Right. He said, I'm going to go physically make you tea. For me, that was really powerful. I thought that was really cool, that he just kind of said, you know what, right now we're both just people that are hurting. Yeah. So let's be there for each other.
It definitely humanizes the moment more, I think.
Yeah. And it makes me love John Ross.
I adore him.
Well, he's hot, but he's also sweet now.
Yeah. I mean, of course, there's still that little bit of the devil, like Afton says. Yes. But
there needs to be. Yeah. He's JR's son. He's JR's boy. So.
Somebody's got to have your back.
Right. So Christopher decides to go after Mr. Richards on his own because he's frustrated right now. Sue Ellen says she's going to try to talk to him, but Christopher, he's not patient right now. He's really just flying off the handle. He's going off the deep end. He goes to, it looks like some sort of athletic club or country club, some sort of setting where the T.E.H.A board is all together.
At the bar.
At the bar.
You like that Miller Lite product placement?
I did. I saw that too, and I was like, really? Really? I drank Miller Lite too when I was 21, of course. Like, shouldn't you be drinking something a little nicer by now?
I know.
No, Miller Lite, great. But so he puts down the beer and heads over to Mr. Richards, and he just basically looks him in the eyes. He's like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you lying? Who got to you? Like, this is, my kids are dead.
Yeah.
You know, and you did that. That's on you."
Yeah, you're covering up for murderers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you could tell he got to Mr. Richards. You could tell by the look in his eyes that he's really conflicted right now. And he's like, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gone to Sue Ellen. I had bad information. I shouldn't have spoken so soon. That was my fault. I'm sorry." And no. Christopher does not accept that.
No.
And hauls off and punches. Well, he doesn't punch him.
Him.
He goes to grab him, and then security or somebody grabs him, and then he punches that person. Mm-hmm. And all hell breaks loose. And Christopher's acting a little bit more like John Ross lately, just getting into fights and just raising hell, and it's cool to see. I like it. And he's hauled out of there. Not a good thing for Christopher. I don't know where he's going right now. I don't know what's going to happen. What do you think's going on in his head?
I think he just feels a lot of guilt, a lot of anger. He wants answers. He's just very frustrated. And it's kind of like that helplessness, when I think that the worst feeling in the world is having no control over anything that's happening, being so out of control and not knowing what to do with it. Mm-hmm. I think is kind of right up there with the pain that he feels for the loss.
Yeah.
Because he can't avenge it. He doesn't know why it happened. Like, it's all of these unanswered questions. It's just such an overwhelmingly awful feeling.
It's so true. That's why I love hosting with you, because you have such great insight. That's what makes the show so great. I haven't lost a child, but I can relate to that feeling of just feeling like I'm better than this and I'm so out of control right now. I can't control my life. I can't control my financial situation or my job or a relationship or whatever, and everybody's been there. And that's when people tend to make choices that aren't choices they would make in their day-to-day lives normally. Right. And that's what he's doing right now. He's just lashing out. Like, right after this is when he, like we said, he yelled at Elena.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not something he would do, but he did it. And she's woman enough to understand that this is a phase. We'll get past this, hopefully. But it's sad to see him go down this road right now.
Yeah, it's literally spiraling out of control. And it always makes me think of, those movies or videos that you see when you're, you're standing still and everything's spinning so fast around you and you're just like still and there's nothing you can do. That's kind of like a way that I think about it.
Like the Twilight movie that one time where Bella was sitting in her room and all the seasons kept going around forever.
Yes, no, but
I made a Twilight reference. I hate those movies, but I just made the reference. I've seen them all.
You love Edward. Stop it.
The last one was good. So, let's talk about Emma for a little bit.
Oh,
she's feisty.
My gosh.
She's crazy.
She is.
She's kind of nuts.
She's, what she's doing? She's sowing her wild oats. Is that what you call it?
She's doing something. She's got a little bit of old school Anne in her and a little bit more of her daddy than we had realized.
She's trying to be defiant in the way that Ryland was trying to be defiant toward Judith before he pushed her down the stairs.
Yeah.
That's what I think that she's doing.
Yeah.
And she wants attention, and she wants attention that's going to make her dad mad.
So basically, she's Lucy 2.0.
Yes.
So she's on her horse. She's going for a ride, and Ryland in his pickup truck rides out, parks right in front of her, and gets out of the car. Apparently, he dug up some dirt on Drew Ramos and wants to let her know. He's got a whole file of information. There's a Grand Theft Auto in 1997. There was a bar fight in 98. There was something in 99.
Smuggling.
And she's like, I know about all these things. He's like, well, and then there was this 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago, whatever it was. And she's like, I know all these things. And he's like, do not defy me, basically, is what he's telling her. And she just kind of turns away and grins. That grin was so telling.
Yeah.
Another one of those moments, like we said, it's one of those like little, no words, no dialogue, just a grin, rides off. She's putting it to him right now. She's driving her dad crazy.
Yeah, she is. Well, not only that, even back at the, from the episode before, like back at the hospital, it's kind of like, John Ross isn't giving her the attention that she wants, so she runs off and she's going to get it from someone. From Drew. Who
she runs into next.
Yes.
She goes to Drew, who is at the drill site where his father died years and years ago.
Yeah, and he's doing kind of a little prayer thing.
There's like a little vigil there.
Yeah.
And he's got a large rock that says it's Papa in Spanish. What is it?
Poppy.
Poppy. Papa in Spanish. Poppy. I took Spanish 4 years in college. What? I can't even. Whatever. I also failed 3 times. So, but then there's also 2 other small rocks on the rock, and she asks what those are for, and he says those are for Christopher's babies. And he feels like he is responsible for the death of these babies now, and so responsible that he almost left town last week.
Right. But you notice how he says it was my fault, and
Yes.
I don't think he was talking about.
That's exactly what I wrote down.
Yeah.
I wrote down it was my fault quotation, and then I put 3 question marks behind it because Emma heard that as you're not because she thought he just got done telling the story about how his father died and he had to run for help and he didn't get there in time. She heard that as it's not your fault that your dad died. He was admitting to her that those babies died because of him.
Yeah.
She didn't catch that, and then he stepped back, was like, okay, I'm not going to say anymore right now because maybe that wasn't a good thing to say. She didn't catch it. I got away with this one. We'll see. You know.
Yeah.
He's going to unravel.
Absolutely. I think he's having a really hard time with it, and he made a wrong decision. He knows that he did, and he's doing everything he can to try to kind of get past it. But I mean, how can you?
Well, he's trying to get past it by going on a date with Emma that night, which he doesn't really show up to. She's
Yeah.
at the bar ready for their date, and she's texting him, not getting any responses. Then finally he checks his phone and says, you know, I miss you, or I'm thinking about you, I'll be there shortly, is what he's getting ready to say, or I can't wait to see you, whatever it was. And as he goes to do that, as he's walking out the front door, he's clocked from behind by one of Ryland's minions and one of his thugs, and he's knocked out. Then we see a hand pick up the phone and erase the message before it was sent, and then respond, I got a better offer. Which is just, I mean, which was
Horrible.
weird. Horrible. And I wouldn't believe that message. If I'm Emma, I'm like, he would never write that. I got a better offer? That doesn't sound like Drew.
No, but does she know him well enough to know?
Exactly. So, turns out it was Ryland. Of course it was Ryland. I knew it was going to be Ryland.
I know. I was like, great. They're going to kill poor Drew.
Yeah, right? Well, they almost do.
They almost do.
Not quite. They actually haul him off to a warehouse and just beat the living daylights out of him. But while this is happening, Ryland goes to the bar where she's waiting for the date. She gets stood up, so she's flirting with some older guy getting drunk with him, rubbing it on his leg at the bar.
And did you, her reaction when Sue Ellen saw her.
Because Sue Ellen was there
priceless.
Sue Ellen was there with Mr. Richards, talking to him, trying to talk some sense to him. And you could tell by the look in his eyes that she was getting somewhere. That she just kind of let him know the Ewings united.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, there's nobody that can take us down, and we are united, and we are united right now, so pick a side. And she got up and stormed off. Sue Ellen's amazing this season.
No, that was a great scene. That was a great scene. It's you know, get it together or you're going to be our enemy, and that's not going to be good for you.
JR taught her well.
Oh, absolutely.
And she's picked up the reins. I feel like she is fierce right now.
Well, and I like that Bobby cut her in on everything, and now she knows. She's
Explained
basically,
everything.
you know, taking up JR's part.
Again, that was one of those light bulb moments where she was like, there's something you guys aren't telling me. And he let her in, which I thought was really cool. She's
Yeah.
part of the team now, and it's fun to see those 4 working together. I don't like when they're at each other's throats as much.
No,
I like that they're
no.
working together. Makes me think of my own family. Things we could do if we'd only unite. I have a great family, actually. So, as she's leaving after this conversation with Mr. Richards, she sees Emma, goes back to South Fork the next morning, and she reaches out to Anne. The night before, though, as Emma leaves, she walks outside with this old guy, and who drives up? Ryland. Get in the car. He gets out, he pushes the guy back, kind of threatens him, says, get in the car. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, is this your husband? It's my daughter. Get in the car. He drives her to the warehouse, lights out, they're sitting there talking, having a conversation. He's explaining to her what happens basically when
She's a bad girl.
when you're a bad girl. Because when she was young, he put a horse down, one of her prize horse when she was young,
Yeah.
and killed it in front of her to teach her a lesson, essentially, which is so awful.
Which is basically what he's about to do right now.
Exactly, because then he turns on the headlights, and there is 2 thugs standing over top of Drew, who just is all bloody and swollen and just looks like he's about to die. And she's just like, who is this man? And she's terrified of her dad.
Oh,
Obviously,
absolutely.
She's so afraid of her dad. And he basically says to her, no more. That's over.
And
Done.
I don't think she realized to the extreme of how evil he really is until that moment.
I thought he was going to kidnap her. I thought he was going to kidnap her again, take her away, and that was going to be the
I
next
thought they were
storyline.
going to kill Drew, honestly.
So did I.
He's scary. I thought he was going to kill him.
I did too. But they didn't, and they let him go home, and Elena finds him the next day. But before we get to that part, there's so much happening right now. When Sue Ellen goes to Anne, she's like, I love that she reaches out to her because Anne was in this episode too much.
Right.
But Sue Ellen's like, there are 20 years where you weren't really around her. You don't really know her. You know, just go talk to her.
I like the way she handled that because it's a very, very sensitive.
You don't want to tell somebody your daughter's a hoe.
No,
you know?
And you can't tell someone how to parent. It's like the worst thing you can do is comment on someone else's parenting skills. Worst thing you could ever do.
Yeah. So
I think the way that she handled it was right.
So
it was very careful.
I think that's something we have to look for next episode also, how that's going to go down, how Anne and Emma's relationship is going to start to evolve.
Well, I wonder how Emma's going to handle all of this now. If she's going to open up and say anything, or what she's going to do.
Let's see what our fans think. So,
yeah.
At this point in the show, I'm going to go ahead and thank you guys for listening on iTunes or for watching us on YouTube or on our website. Also, please take the time to give us 5 stars, leave comments, tell your friends about us. We really do appreciate it. We get all kinds of comments. I don't like all of them, to be honest with you, but we do get a lot. And for those of you, I just want to take a quick moment to say, thank you so much for watching us. We really do appreciate it. And we really love when you guys let us know things we don't know, because in all honesty, we don't know everything there is to know about Dallas. We know there's a lot of history, and it's a show that's been around forever. But we cover Dallas TNT. We're not covering Dallas CBS. So for some of these fans who get a little feisty sometimes, I don't really have time to sit around and watch 14 episodes or 14 seasons of Dallas a show that came on before I was even born. I do watch YouTube clips all the time, and I love when our fans send me clips. I think that's really fun because every week there's things that we talk about that we don't know. There's actually a deeper story that goes back to some other storyline from the 80s or the 90s. But we have a lot of people who either tweet us videos or you send us YouTube links, and I love that because I do spend hours sometimes just watching.
There's some great stuff.
There
and I'll
really
have my mom like tell me about things. And
I call my mom all the time too because she watched the original. But just to be clear though, we are covering Dallas TNT, which is the show that's been on for 2 seasons. So that's where we are.
Right.
Any help you guys can give us though, we really do appreciate because it makes us better hosts and makes this show better. So we do appreciate it.
And you guys can always call in and chat with us too.
Absolutely.
Don't forget about that.
Absolutely. But I want to know what you guys think about Emma. Is she going to go off the deep end? Is she going to become a total loose cannon, or is she going to tell Anne what Ryland did?
Yeah, and especially now with Judith being kicked off to the rehab center or psych ward, or where did they take her? Because I don't think those EMTs were really EMTs.
That's not the last we've seen of her.
So no, but I think she's kidnapped somewhere, being held up somewhere.
Because if she's got the money to basically pull the rug out from underneath Ryland so easily, like she could have last week or a couple of weeks ago. She's the one in control. Those EMTs might be working for her. I
don't know. But why are they drugging her? And it was just it was a weird scene.
Yeah.
So true. I'm wondering if he's going to if he's putting her away somewhere to kind of keep her quiet until he can buy her out from that deal he's got with Cliff Barnes.
You're so much smarter than I am.
You know, like I don't know. I'm just saying, it doesn't look like she's going to a rehab center, really.
Well, if I know one thing about Dallas, things are never what they seem.
No, absolutely not.
So we'll see. So back to South Fork. Bobby's on the phone with Carlos. Carlos found a woman, found the actual woman who was seen down with JR the night that he died, the night that he was killed. And he actually brings her to Dallas. He says, look, I've got her here. Can you meet us in an hour? So he does. Bobby meets, her name's Rhonda. She says that she met JR at a club. She said that JR was asking her about Ryland and the cartels down there. Apparently,
so he's been meeting with the cartels down in Mexico.
So this gets deeper and deeper.
So he then obviously, and everybody probably knows this before I finally caught on to it last night, but so Ryland owns a trucking company that Drew was working for, hence the reason why he had that same guy have him make the bomb. Okay, this all came, I don't know how I missed it, but it all came like together for me yesterday.
Because they set Drew up a few weeks ago.
With that thing. No, but it was John Ross that set him up with the tail light with Bug. So that's just kind of
But he was working for Ryland.
But I just didn't remember that he was working for Ryland. So that's all clear. So he's meeting with the cartel about the smuggling that he's doing of these like women's shoes and clothes and whatever, or whatever's really in it.
Shoes and purses.
Yeah. Or the drugs that are in the lining of it.
Yeah, I love when Ryland said to Emma that that's what was going on. He was like, did you at least get a pair of shoes out of it or something? I was like, I got a little humor, jerk. So Rhonda, she meets with Bobby pretty briefly, but she also said, and I thought this was really touching, and I think it really had an impact on Bobby. She said, in my line of business, I don't run into a whole lot of gentlemen. JR was a true gentleman.
And I think that did have a big impact on him.
He just wanted their company. He just wanted to talk to her, had a drink with her, and just talked. And that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because keep in mind, at that point, he wanted Sue Ellen back.
Yeah.
So sad. So sad.
I know.
So Christopher finally, towards the end of the episode, reaches out to Pamela. Because Elena says, and I love how Elena really kind of said, you need to go talk to her. You know, this is the mother of your children.
She'll believe you.
I think she'll believe you. Yeah. So he reaches out to her, and she just falls into his arms.
Because John Ross had already told her.
Yeah. So she knew.
But he didn't tell her the whole story.
Nope.
And
I don't think he should. I don't think he should, because that could really break her right now.
Yeah, baby steps, for sure.
When you've already sent away your mother, and the only other person that's left in your life as family is the one who caused you all this pain, like, where do you go?
And plus, they don't have real proof yet anyway.
Exactly. And she was ostracized by the Ewing family not that long ago, so she doesn't feel completely comfortable there yet. Like, where do you go? That's a scary place to be. People make bad choices in those sorts of situations.
And kind of those limbo situations. Yeah.
Exactly. But she says to Christopher, find out whoever did this and make them pay. That's a pretty bold statement, and little does she know that it could very well be her own dad.
Yep.
Which is pretty intense, I think. God, the shows are, it's amazing.
So, I know.
So then, Mr. Richards gives Sue Ellen some info.
He decided to pick a side.
He picked a side. Well, that's what he says, but he didn't really. Okay, he says he picked a side, but he really.
He was kind of forced to, because remember when we see the cut to them, him with the governor.
With the governor, yes.
The governor forces him to resign.
Yes.
Because he can't handle this situation, and he kind of, effed up by giving Sue Ellen any information.
And the governor has dirt on him from years back.
So he's blackmailing him, makes him resign. So he kind of was forced to pick the other side because something bad happened to him.
Yes.
I don't necessarily think he would have done what he did had that not happened.
Yes.
So now he sends her the paperwork that shows that, Ryland was the biggest contributor to the governor.
Okay, but I'm confused what you're saying, though. Are you saying he picked the side
of the Ewings?
Exactly.
But I don't think he would have done that had he not been forced to resign. I think he would have stayed on the other side trying to keep his job.
Got it. Okay, I thought you were saying the other thing, so I'm like, no, I took that as he helped the Ewings, because he just gave him a big piece of information.
No, he did, but I think he was kind of forced to do that because they took away his job. So it's like, what else is he going to do? Okay, well, then I'm on your side. Make these fools pay.
Yeah, what have I got to lose?
Exactly.
Because this whole story that could break out about me and my past is going to be dwarfed in comparison to what's going to come out about the governor of Texas.
Absolutely.
So he's like, I'll stick with the Ewings on this one. And also, I'm a firm believer, you go with the side that's right. Morally, ethically, you go with the side that's right, and you can never, ever lose. Even if you lose, you still know you won. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So he sends her documents that show that Harris Ryland contributed $300,000 to the governor's campaign. He was the largest contributor during his campaign, which also explains why Sue Ellen, it was so important for them that Sue Ellen not win the governorship, why it was so important to Ryland. All this stuff has been in place for a while. This entire season, the last couple of seasons, is all coming to fruition now, and we're finding out.
Well, that's another reason why he wanted that tape back so badly from Anne, and why Emma was even here in the first place, because he had all of that to lose.
I didn't even think about that. That's why he was willing to kind of negotiate and kind of go there.
And use
which
Emma.
Infuriated Judith.
And he took that risk because he needed that tape where he was basically saying that he pays these people off.
So he basically gave up his daughter.
Yep.
That's crazy. That just hit me right now. That's the thing. Cliff Barnes and Harris Ryland are working together right now. They're so evil. They've literally both given up their daughters.
Yeah.
Because they hate the Ewing family that much. I just had an epiphany right now.
That's
crazy. I didn't even think about that part of it.
Crazy.
The show is written in a way that's so deep and so, it's just a crazy web of like all these like storylines that they're all genius. And the thing that's so cool about Dallas is that there really aren't holes in the plot lines.
No.
Everything's
I mean, at least for me watching it, there's so much going on, and your brain is moving, your eyes, there's so much. I'll forget about things and have to go back, but there's never really a hole, because once you go back, it automatically fills it, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's why this, and it's all interconnected. It's insane.
Oh, it drives me crazy. This is so cool.
I know.
I love
much
the show.
Good stuff.
I love the show. I love the show. I love the show.
Do you want to talk about your Victoria Principal news?
Yes, but really quickly, very quickly, this will wrap up at the very end of this episode, because at the very end, something big happens.
Yes.
Elena finds Drew, first of all, and he's drinking a bottle of Jack. And she says, what happened to you? He says, don't tell anybody. Harris Ryland. Of course she's going to tell anybody. Elena will never keep that quiet.
No.
She's going to go after him. And now she's on board with the Ewings to take him down as well. Everybody's united, which is really cool, first of all. Then the governor and Harris Ryland in the office at the end of the episode, genius. Harris is sitting there like eating peanuts or something. And
telling the story.
The story about a kimono dragon and the buffalo. The kimono dragon isn't strong enough to take down the buffalo. However, the kimono dragon has a poisonous bite which will then slowly over time take down the big mighty buffalo, and then we'll eat it bit by bit. Yeah.
Basically patience.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what they're trying to do to the Ewing family right now. At the end of the episode, Bobby, Sue Ellen, John Ross, and Christopher are in the boardroom at Ewing Energies, and Bobby is served with documents saying that the Henderson ranch has been taken over by the governor, by the state of the state of Texas.
And that's where they've been drilling to get the money for their oil.
And now if they can't do that, they have no money coming in.
Yep.
They can't go drill South Fork because it's going to take weeks for them to uncap the well and to go and to do that. So they're kind of just screwed right now. So they're fighting back big. They're going big, which is cool. I love to see them fight.
Well, now it's even more of a necessity to find Pamela.
Oh, yeah.
Because she, when they find
if they find Pam,
they're reading the will, and
yes.
she's got 1/3, and if she's dead, then it's Christopher.
If she's dead, or they can't find her since she's been gone all these years, and that is the interesting part.
Yeah.
If they just can't find her, she's choosing not to be found. That means that Christopher now owns 1/3 of Barnes Global.
Yep.
Which is just so cool. Hopefully they find her and she comes back and she, I don't know, sides with them or something. But that actually leads me into our little bit of news and gossip that I have.
AfterBuzz TV News.
So I'll just say this. I'm a little investigator. I actually met somebody recently who casts for Dallas.
Oh.
And couldn't give me any information because obviously they're very tight-lipped. However, when I was asking about Victoria Principal, he got a little bit jittery and a little bit nervous and just kind of grinned and looked away from me. I said, Victoria Principal's coming back. Looked away. I said, I know Victoria Principal's coming back.
So you're reading the body language.
Yeah, I read the memo. The memo she released saying that I would never come back because I want to leave the legacy of Bobby and Pam intact, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy it for a second. I know she's coming back. And he just goes, just looks away. Wouldn't say a word, didn't confirm or deny, but I'm like, I am no dummy. I see it in your eyes. It might not be till the last episode.
You are going to will this into reality.
It will happen. There's a Facebook page just for Victoria Principal coming back to Dallas. Because I know that years ago, and when they did this, and I knew this from somebody else, but when they did this series, when TNT decided to bring it back, allegedly, Linda Gray, Patrick Duffy, and Larry Hagman said they would do it, but they did not want her back. There must have been some issue over the years, some animosity or something that didn't sit well with them.
I think there was something that happened, if memory serves me, but I'll have to research that and check it out.
And the three characters that did come back are best friends. They've been best friends for 30 years. However, now that Larry Hagman is gone, for the sake of the show, it could really help them to bring her back, I think. To bring another legacy character like that would be huge. It would help their ratings. It would be great for the storylines. So I'm...
I know,
crossed.
everybody. AJ will will this into reality.
She's just fierce, and she still looks great. And to see how great Sue Ellen has held up, and how great Joan Van Ark, all these legacy characters that keep coming back, they all look.
It's so
Afton looks great.
fantastic to see them there.
To see women at this stage in their career looking as hot as they do.
I know.
Good for you, Dallas. Good for you. Good for you. So I hope it happens. I hope it happens by the end of the season, and I think that would be the most phenomenal season finale if all of a sudden Victoria Principal comes walking through the door.
And then it just stops.
The way that Bobby's in the shower that one season. This could be that moment for Dallas 2.0. Oh, you guys, I want to thank you so much for stopping by. Please come back next week and check us out. We're going to be here for another exciting episode. Before we leave, where can our fans follow you on Twitter, Kelly?
You can follow me at Kelly with an IE 079.
And you guys can follow me on Twitter at _AJ Gibson. Check out my website, ajgibson.tv. Until next time, we're out. Take care.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz y'all later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.